Guys, imagine waking up to the kind of confirmation that shakes the entire crypto space awake, especially on a day like today, November 1st, 2025, when the buzz around Ripple swell is already electric and market volatility is throwing curveballs left and right. We're talking about that massive green light for spot XRP ETFs finally getting a concrete date to November 13th, straight from the filings that just dropped. And it's tying right into the drama of surprise speakers and institutional heavyweights lining up for next week's event. If you're like me, coming from an engineering background where I've spent years tinkering with systems that connect dots in ways most people overlook, this feels like the circuit board lighting up after a long debug session. And let me tell you, the detractors out there, those Bitcoin maxis who love to hype their opaque networks while bashing anything with real transparency, they're not going to like what's coming next, because this isn't just hype. It's the pieces falling into place for something transformative in the XRP ecosystem. Alright, let's dive in, because I've got a ton to unpack here, and I promise you, by the end, you'll see how these developments aren't isolated blips, but interconnected catalysts that could redefine XRP's role in the global financial revolution. We'll break down the fresh confirmations on that ETF launch date connected to the Ripple banking license whispers that are reaching a fever pitch right now, especially since today marks the end of that crucial 120-day review period, and tie it all into the swell event that's pulling in names like BlackRock, JP Morgan, Nasdaq, and even White House reps. I'll walk you through some chart patterns I've been eyeing, drawing parallels to historical cycles that remind us why zooming out is key, and share a bit from my own journey spotting these connections early on. We'll look at real-time sentiment from expos, expert opinions, and reputable sources to back it all up, showing how XRP's fundamentals like its fixed supply, transaction burns, escrow mechanisms, and utility and payments position it as a standout in this space. Oh, and if you're new here or just need a reliable spot to grab some XRP, check out my favorite exchange link down below. It's been a game changer for staying ahead without the headaches. Thanks so much for tuning in. By the way, your likes and subs really help push this out against the shadow bans hitting so many in our niche, and it means the world to keep delivering these insights straight to you. So, starting with the bombshell that's got everyone talking, Canary Capital just updated their S1 filing for a spot XRP ETF, yanking out that delaying amendment, which basically hands the timing over to Nasdaq for a potential go live on November 13th. This isn't some rumor floating around. It's right there, in the docs, and it aligns perfectly with the SEC's auto-effective mechanisms that let filings move forward even amid any lingering government shutdown chatter. Think about it like this. It's the sound wave analogy I love using. The market's full of background noise right now, all these little vibrations from volatility and FUD. But this is the big clap, the catalyst that amplifies everything. From my insider perspective, having chatted with folks in fintech circles back when I was engineering payment systems, this move screams preparation for institutional inflows. Stephen McClure from Canary dropped hints on Bloomberg about how the SEC's September approval of generic listing standards for cryptos with futures markets paved the way. No delays, just straight action. And guys, if we see even a fraction of the $5 to $10 billion he predicts flooding in during the first 30 days, that's not just price speculation. That's real utility demand kicking in. Let's zoom in on why this matters so much for XRP holders. Historically, when new financial products like ETFs open the floodgates to institutional money, we see a shift from retail-driven volatility to more stable, long-term growth. Remember how Bitcoin ETFs transformed that market. XRP, with its proven track record in cross-border payments and regulatory clarity post the SEC lawsuit resolution, is primed for something similar. But unlike BTC, XRP has built-in deflationary mechanics. Every transaction burns a tiny amount, reducing the circulating supply over time, which could compound the scarcity effect as adoption ramps up. Over on X, the community is absolutely lit up with posts confirming the hype around this November 13th date. Take this one from a well-followed account. Breaking. The long-anticipated non-XRP ETF is moving closer to launch after the SEC delay was officially lifted. Target launch date November 13th, 2025. Another user echoed it. XRP ETF coming this November 13th as Canary Capital submits updated S1 by removing roadblocks. And here's one breaking it down economically. Update: November 13th could be the most important date for XRP holders in years. Canary funds just cleared the path for the first US spot XRPF. Why this matters: institutional access, billion-dollar funds, and potential catalysts like the SEC case drop. These aren't just random tweets. They're echoing the sentiment from experts and whales who've been positioning for this. The pros: it counters the endless FUD about XRP being dead or centralized. Nonsense peddled by those who ignore its fixed 100 billion supply and the deflationary burns on every transaction which make it scarcer over time. On-ramps for tokenized assets. Shifting gears to the charts for a sec because, as an analyst with an engineering twist, I can't resist a good pattern breakdown. Right now, XRP's hovering around that key support at 0.50. But wait, no. Let's update that with today's action. As of October 31st, 2025, XRP is trading around $2.58 with a market cap of about $155 billion, showing resilience amid broader market dips. It's rebounding off recent lows, but facing resistance near $2.50 to $2.60. Classic consolidation before a breakout, reminiscent of the 2013 to 2017 cycle where we saw sideways action for months before the boom. Zoom out, guys. Think about it. Those historical parallels show turbulence as just the prelude, like market noise before the thunderclap. I've pulled up the weekly chart and you can visualize those ascending triangles forming with volume picking up on the upswings. Analysts are noting how XRP mirrors the 2017 bull cycle where a similar symmetrical triangle led to a 30,000% rally. In 2017, XRP dropped 63.82%, 82% in April before surging 1,501% in May and exploding 11,573% overall. Today we're seeing identical patterns of 58 to 70% crash before rebound, hitting the 20-month moving average as support, which historically signals major uptrends. If we break above $260 post-swell, especially with ETF inflows, we're looking at potential tests of $4.50, $9.90, or even $20 and $27 in a full euphoric phase based on Elliott wave counts and Fibonacci extensions. Pure speculation grounded in data, but backed by fundamentals like XRP's escrow releases that ensure controlled supply, contrasting with inflationary coins out there. And let's critique the hypocrisy. Bitcoin maxis rave about decentralization but turn a blind eye to their own mining centralization issues, while XRP's transparency in payments and settlements shines through. It's designed for real-world use, not just hodling. Remember that time I was at a fintech conference back in my engineering career, rubbing shoulders with devs from legacy banks and heard firsthand how XRP's 3 to 5 second settlement times crush BTC's hours-long confirmations for cross-border transfers. That's the kind of insider edge that builds conviction. It wasn't glamorous. Lots of late nights debugging protocols, but it taught me to spot when tech like XRP's ledger with its no counterparty risk and global accessibility is set to disrupt. No default, no freezes, no clawbacks. As David Schwartz himself pointed out in a recent post, XRP is the only asset without a counterparty that can be accessed by every account in every jurisdiction with no risk. This utility contrasts sharply with the short-term chaos we've seen, like recent crashes from macro pressures or feud campaigns. But zooming out, the long-term positives, regulatory wins, institutional adoption via swell lineups outweigh it all. For instance, if Ripple secures that banking license, which we'll get to next, it could enable XRP to become the primary liquidity token in a regulated ecosystem, driving exponential demand. Now, connecting these dots to Ripple's banking license. Today, October 31st, 2025 marks the end of the OCC's 120-day review period for their national bank charter application filed back in July. No official announcement yet, but the anticipation is through the roof. Experts are buzzing about it. One user noted, Ripple's 120-day OC review period for its bank charter application officially ends tomorrow, 30 October, to enable custody of digital assets, INL. XRP, offer regulated stablecoin issuance RLUSD, and bridge traditional finance. Another. Today is the end of the OC's 120-day review of Ripple's application to establish Ripple National Trust Bank. If it's approved, Ripple becomes the official federal regulated bank. This is massive for XRP, RLUSD, and crypto as a whole, and a detailed one. Ripple's OC banking license application has officially been made public for review, introducing Ripple National Trust Bank. If approved, Ripple becomes a federally regulated entity, a historic leap for digital finance, allowing it to custody assets, issue stablecoins under Basel-compliant frameworks, and tokenize real-world assets like stocks, bonds, and real estate. Think executive thesis from experts like Rob Cunningham. With charters in place, Ripple could run stablecoins like RLUSD on XRP ledger rails under barrel stacks, letting central banks and institutions settle trillions in flows. The significance: it shifts XRP from speculative asset to indispensable utility. Demand for settlements, fees, collateral, all driving scarcity. Imagine if just 10% of global flows settle via this. With velocity factors, we're talking equilibrium prices north of $140, $200 per token in theoretical models. That's why this ties so perfectly to the video's theme of confirmation and going live. November 13th isn't just a date. It's the spark for XRP's transformation, especially with Swell amplifying it. From a psychological angle, this addresses common pain points for holders. The fatigue from sideways action, the misinformation from maxes who claim XRP lacks use cases. But guys, think about it. XRP's fixed supply and burns create a deflationary pressure that's like a coiled spring ready to release as utility ramps. This isn't blind optimism, it's based on observing smart money behaviors like whales accumulating amid dips, as seen in recent on-chain data showing 2.06 billion repositioned off exchanges globally. This has huge implications. Swell's got reps from North and South America, highlighting XRP's cross-border edge in regions where remittances and payments are lifelines. In Europe, Christine Lagarde's recent push for the digital euro echoes Ripple's collaborations, where she's spoken kindly about their tech in Asia and beyond. Partnerships with banks could accelerate CBDC integrations. Critiquing industry norms, the hypocrisy on transparency is glaring. Projects with secretive founders get a pass, but XRP's open ledger gets bashed. This license would flip that narrative, positioning XRP as compliance first. Tying back to the thumbnail, that act now before it's too late. Urgency mirrors how these events could lock in scarcity, making modest holdings like 1,000 XRP life-altering as adoption booms. Much like the 2017 cycle where early holders saw generational wealth midway through, if you're digging these breakdowns and want more resources, I've linked some affiliate tools below for charting and staying updated. They're extensions of what we discuss here. No pressure, just helpful for your own research. And hey, if this is resonating, smash that like and sub. It fuels the community and helps beat the algo suppression. Diving even deeper into the connections. XRP's regulatory progress, like the SEC lawsuit wrap-up granting clarity, positions it miles ahead of secretive projects that still face scrutiny. Contrast the short-term chaos of recent dips, perhaps from election jitters or macro fears, with the long-term opportunities from institutional buy-in. Historical parallels abound. In 2017, XRP's price followed Fibonacci progressions to parabolic highs, multiplying returns exponentially. Today, analysts see the same. XRP mirrors 2017 cycle, eyeing a monumental 27 breakout rally from Expos. Sentiments overwhelmingly bullish. The weak hands have been shaken out. This confirms the start of the utility market for XRP in November. Markets don't move on events. They move on the certainty those events remove. November 13th, 2025. XRP ETF auto-effective. Smart money is accumulating with whale movement signaling confidence amid community discussions on event hype. Psychologically, this turns despair into excitement, addressing panic from Max's blind spots, like ignoring XRP's role in tokenizing trillions in repo markets or swift volumes. For novices, this is simplify it. XRP is like the efficient highway in a world of dirt roads with burns, acting as tolls that reduce available lanes over time, increasing value. For experts, it's the math. Transaction velocity decreases float demand. Basel III regs require high-quality collateral, potentially locking up billions in XRP as Tier 1 equivalents. Let's expand on those historical cycles a bit more because they're so telling. Back in December 2017, XRP surged 730.9% in a single month, part of a broader 2017 run where positive months hit 45% of the year with peaks like 376.5% in May. Fast forward to now, and charts show XRP repeating that pattern after touching the 20th moving average, a signal that preceded the 2017 breakout. Analysts using Elliott waves suggest we're in early wave 3, the phase for major moves. This isn't coincidence, it's cyclical behavior driven by adoption waves. In my engineering analogy, it's like resonance in a system. Small inputs build to massive outputs when frequencies align. With swell ETFs and potential license approval aligning, we're hitting that sweet spot. Critiquing detractors, maxis often overlook how XRP's utility in ISO 2022 messaging and AML-compliant rails make it indispensable for banks, unlike BTC's energy-hungry proof of work. Weaving in more global perspectives, consider how this positions XRP in emerging markets. In Latin America, Swell's focus on connecting North and South could accelerate remittances where XRP's low fees shine. In Europe, Lagarde's digital euro acceleration ties into Ripple's past work, potentially using XRP for bridges. Psych Insights. Behavioral finance shows how FOMO kicks in post-catalysts, turning skeptics into buyers, exactly what November could trigger. Observations of smart money. Institutions like BlackRock CK aren't attending Swell for fun. They're scouting opportunities, industry critiques, the blind spots on transparency, XRP's public escrow. Contrasts with hidden supplies in other coins, addressing pain points head-on. If you're feeling fatigued from checking charts every 3 minutes, like that one viewer mentioned, remember, stagnation precedes breakthroughs. This reassurance isn't fluff. It's from years of market cycles. Turn despair into excitement by focusing on fundamentals. XRP's role in tokenizing assets powering CBDCs absorbing cross-border flows. As we wrap this up on a philosophical visionary note, guys, this is about more than prices. It's the transformation of finance, the inevitability of a tokenized world where XRP empowers everyday people, not just elites. We're witnessing the end of speculation and the dawn of utility, like sound waves building to a symphony that echoes across generations. Stay convicted, hold strong, and let's keep connecting these dots together. Share your theories below. What do you think November holds? Thanks again. Your support rocks. See you in the next one, where we'll break down Swell live.